The salvage scanner beeped twice, and Sizith knew that sound meant trouble. Nothing good ever came from finding life signs in a debris field 3 months old. The reptilian captain dragged his claws across the console and checked the readings again. 1 human child. 1 unknown biological signature. Both alive somehow. In a ship that had been torn apart by meteor strikes and left spinning through the frontier zone like cosmic garbage, his crew gathered around the viewscreen as their vessel approached the wreckage. The colony ship had been called New Tomorrow, which Sizith thought was darkly funny now. Hundreds of frozen colonists still drifted in their pods, dead for months. Their dreams of a new world ended before they ever woke up. The scanner kept insisting that 2 living creatures remained aboard. Sizith made the decision that would change his life. They docked with the broken ship and suited up. The interior was a frozen nightmare of twisted metal and shattered glass. His engineer Prism moved through the wreckage with careful steps, their crystalline body reflecting the emergency lights in strange patterns. The life signs came from a cargo section that had somehow maintained partial power. They found the cryopod wedged between 2 support beams. The glass was cracked but sealed. Inside, a small human child with dark hair and brown skin lay curled around something furry. The second life sign. Sizith had never seen a creature like it before. Stocky body, black and white fur, claws that looked far too large for its size. Prism carefully cut the pod free and they carried it back to their ship. In the medical bay, Sizith watched through reinforced glass as the automated systems began the wake-up sequence. The child's eyes opened first. She looked around without crying, without screaming, just taking in the unfamiliar ceiling and walls with quiet acceptance. Then the creature woke up. It exploded from the pod with a snarling hiss that made Sizith's scales stand on end. The medical drones scattered as it attacked everything in reach, tearing at the equipment with those oversized claws. Sizith reached for the emergency containment button, but the child sat up and spoke. "Biscuit, stop it. We're okay." Her voice was calm and soft. The creature froze mid-attack, turned to look at her, and the aggression drained away like someone had flipped a switch. It waddled back to the pod and pressed against her leg. The child petted its head like this was completely normal. Sizith opened the communication panel. "You are safe. We found your ship. What is your name?" "Ruby," the child said. She looked maybe 6 years old by human standards, though Sizith was not entirely sure how human aging worked. "This is Biscuit. He's a honey badger. Where are my parents?" The question hit Sizith like a physical blow. He looked at Prism, who said nothing. How did you tell a child that everyone she knew was dead? "We are taking you somewhere safe," Sizith said finally. "Do you need food?" "Water?" Ruby nodded. "Biscuit gets hungry when he wakes up." "Do you have any meat?" They brought her rations. The child ate slowly, methodically, sharing half of everything with the creature called Biscuit. Sizith noticed that she never asked about her parents again, as if she already knew the answer and had decided not to think about it yet. His crew member, a nervous avian named Clipper, made the mistake of trying to scan Biscuit with a handheld device. The honey badger moved faster than Sizith thought possible. One moment Clipper was extending the scanner. The next he was on the floor with the creature standing on his chest, teeth bared inches from his throat. Ruby stood up. "Biscuit, come here, please." The honey badger looked at her, looked at Clipper, then casually stepped off the terrified avian and returned to Ruby's side. Clipper scrambled backward so fast he hit the wall. Sizith made another decision. He sealed the medical bay and set course for Sanctuary Station. Whatever these humans were, whatever this creature was, it was beyond his pay grade to handle alone. The Confederation Council could figure out what to do with a Deathworlder child and her pet. Predator. During the 3-day journey, Sizith watched Ruby through the monitors. She talked to Biscuit like he understood every word. She asked the computer questions about where they were going, what the Confederation was, why the stars looked different here. The computer answered in simple terms, and Ruby absorbed everything without fear or confusion. On the second day, Prism asked to enter the medical bay. Sizith almost refused, but the engineer insisted. He watched nervously as Prism approached Ruby and Biscuit. The honey badger watched the crystalline being with suspicious eyes. "I found this in the wreckage," Prism said, holding out a small data pad. "It has pictures on it." Ruby took the pad and activated it. Her face remained calm as she scrolled through images of people who must have been her family. Biscuit pressed against her leg. She petted him absently. "Thank you," Ruby said quietly. Then she looked up at Prism. "Can I ask you something?" "Yes, why is everyone on this ship so scared all the time?" Prism stood very still. Scythe leaned closer to the monitor, curious how the engineer would answer. "We are not scared," Prism said. Ruby tilted her head. "But you are." "I can tell." "Biscuit can tell too. Is it because of us?" "You come from a death world," Prism said carefully. "Earth is classified as extremely dangerous. We have never met humans before. We do not know what to expect." "Oh," Ruby said. She looked at Biscuit, then back at Prism. "We're not scary. We're just people." "Biscuit's not scary either. He's just protective." Scythe watched Prism's crystalline surface shift colors. Something that happened when the engineer was thinking hard about something. "I believe you," Prism said finally, when they arrived at Sanctuary Station. Scythe sent his report ahead and requested a council representative. He had found something that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity. He just did not know it yet. Sanctuary Station orbited a dead moon, which Chitara thought was appropriate given how many desperate people ended up there. The four-armed insectoid administrator had seen refugees from 100 different wars, survivors of plagues and disasters, criminals seeking asylum and saints seeking purpose. But she had never dealt with a human child before. And certainly not one who traveled with a creature that made her security team refuse to enter the same room. Ruby sat in the observation quarters, looking out at the stars while Biscuit slept in her lap. Chitara watched from the doorway, afraid to get closer. The child seemed so small and fragile, yet 3 trained guards had quit rather than stand watch over her. Not because of anything Ruby had done. Because of what Biscuit had done to the containment cage. They had initially prepared. He had torn through reinforced steel like it was paper. Then he had calmly walked back to Ruby and taken a nap. "Are you hungry?" Chitara asked, keeping 2 of her arms behind her back in a non-threatening posture. Ruby turned and smiled. "Yes, please." "Biscuit, too." They brought food. Ruby ate quietly while station scientists observed from monitoring stations, taking notes on everything from her bite patterns to how she shared her meal with the honey badger. Chitara had read the preliminary reports. Earth had gravity that would crush most species, atmospheric pressure that would rupture lungs, bacteria that could dissolve flesh. And somehow humans had evolved there, had thrived there, and had decided to bring their predators with them when they left. The Confederation Council was meeting to discuss Ruby's fate. Chitara had been given strict instructions. Keep the child comfortable, keep her contained, and do not let anything happen that might anger her or her companion. The last instruction made Chitara's antenna twitch with anxiety. On the 3rd day, the Vin Empire sent a delegation. Chitara had protested, but the council overruled her. The Vrin were one of the apex species, reptilian warriors who had conquered 40 star systems through superior combat ability. They wanted to see the human child for themselves. Their champion, a massive scaled warrior named Groth, entered the observation quarters without permission. Ruby looked up from the book Prism had given her, a simple text about galactic history written for younglings. "You are the Deathworlder," Groth said. It was not a question. "I'm Ruby," she replied. "This is Biscuit." Groth's eyes fixed on the honey badger. This creature terrified station security. "I do not believe such a small animal is dangerous. I believe you are all cowards." Chitara tried to intervene, but Groth waved her away. The Vrin champion stepped closer to Ruby, looming over her with his full height. Biscuit's eyes opened. The honey badger stood up slowly, placing himself between Ruby and the warrior. "Your pet does not frighten me," Groth said. He raised his voice deliberately, a challenge display that worked on most species. "I am Vrin. I have killed greater beasts than this." Biscuit moved. Chitara had studied the security footage from the cage incident frame by frame, trying to understand how fast the honey badger could move. She still was not prepared. Biscuit hit Groth at knee level with enough force to knock the warrior backward. Then he climbed the Vrin's armor like it was a tree, claws finding purchase in the scales beneath. Teeth aiming for the throat, Groth roared and tried to grab the creature. But Biscuit twisted and bit down on the warrior's hand. Blood sprayed across the floor. The entire attack had taken 4 seconds. "Biscuit, stop," Ruby said. Her voice had not changed tone at all. He didn't know better. The honey badger released Groth's hand and dropped to the floor. He walked back to Ruby and sat down, looking up at her expectantly. She scratched behind his ears. Groth clutched his bleeding hand. His eyes wide with something Chitara had never seen in a Vrin before. Fear. "I am sorry," Ruby said to Groth. "Biscuit doesn't like loud voices. They make him think something's wrong." The Vrin champion backed toward the door, never taking his eyes off the honey badger. He left without another word. Chitara stood frozen, processing what she had just witnessed. The apex warrior of the Vin Empire had been defeated by a creature small enough to fit in Ruby's arms. And the child was apologizing for it. The council meeting that had been scheduled for next week was moved to that evening. Chitara found herself standing before representatives from every major species, trying to explain what had happened. The Vrin delegation demanded that the honey badger be destroyed as a dangerous animal. Ruby be quarantined until proper containment could be arranged. Ambassador Lalaise, a leonine diplomat known for his calm reason, asked the question that everyone was thinking. "Administrator Chitara, in your professional opinion, can this child and her companion be safely housed anywhere in Confederation space?" Chitara felt all 4 of her arms trembling. "I do not believe we have the facilities to contain them if they choose not to be contained. The honey badger destroyed our strongest cage without effort. But the child controls the creature with simple words. The danger is not the animal or the child. The danger is us making them feel threatened." The council chamber fell silent. The concept was almost incomprehensible to species who had built their civilizations on strength and containment and control. "What do you recommend?" Lalaise asked. "Give her what she wants," Chitara said. "Ask where she wants to go, who she wants to be with. Treat her like a person, not a problem." Lalaise stood up, his mane shifting in the artificial breeze. "Then I will take responsibility for her. I am traveling to the core worlds for the Grand Summit. Ruby and her companion will come with me. If the Council wishes to decide humanity's fate, they should see what humans are actually like." The vote was close, but it passed. Chitara returned to Sanctuary Station and told Ruby she would be leaving with Ambassador Lalaise. "Is he nice?" Ruby asked. "I believe so," Chitara said. "Okay," Ruby said. She picked up her small bag of belongings and took Biscuit's paw. "Thank you for letting us stay here." Chitara watched them leave and felt something she rarely experienced: relief. Lalaise had negotiated peace treaties between warring species, mediated resource disputes that nearly destroyed star systems, and once talked down a fleet admiral from committing genocide. But he had never been responsible for a human child before, and the weight of it pressed on him like atmospheric pressure from a heavy world. Ruby sat in the passenger cabin of his diplomatic vessel, looking out at the streaming lights of faster-than-light travel. Biscuit lay across her lap, occasionally opening one eye to check his surroundings before going back to sleep. The child asked questions constantly, and Lalaise found himself struggling to answer them. "Why does it take 3 weeks to reach the core worlds?" Ruby asked. "Our fastest ships can only achieve 0.7 light speed," Lalaise explained. "The distance is vast. But if you can fold space for communication, why not for travel?" Lalaise paused. It was a fair question, one that physicists had been asking for centuries. The energy requirements are too great. The mathematics do not work. "Oh," Ruby said. She petted Biscuit thoughtfully. "What's the Grand Summit for?" "The apex species meet to discuss territory and resource allocation. To prevent wars. Are there a lot of wars?" "Fewer than there used to be," Lalaise said carefully. The strong species maintain order. Ruby looked at him with those dark eyes that seemed far too old for her face. By scaring everyone else? Leonis felt his mane bristle despite himself. The child's directness was unsettling. By providing stability. She did not respond, just went back to looking at the stars. Leonis found himself wondering what she was thinking. Prism had requested permission to travel with them, and Leonis had agreed. The crystalline engineers spent most of their time in the cargo bay, maintaining the ship's systems and apparently befriending Biscuit. Leonis had watched through the monitors as Prism and the honey badger sat together in comfortable silence. Prism working on repairs while Biscuit watched with interest. "How do you do it?" Leonis asked one day, finding Prism in the cargo bay with Biscuit lying nearby. "Do what?" Prism's voice resonated through their crystalline structure. "Stay calm around that creature. My instincts scream danger every time I see it." Prism continued working on a power relay. Biscuit is not dangerous to those who do not threaten him or Ruby. He is simply competent at violence. The same way I am competent at engineering. I respect competence. Leonis considered this. "You are not afraid?" "I am always afraid," Prism said. "But fear is information, not instruction. Biscuit has never threatened me. Why would I treat him as a threat?" Before Leonis could respond, alarms shrieked throughout the ship. Pirates had dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly in their path, a classic ambush position. Leonis rushed to the bridge and activated the communication channel. "This is Ambassador Leonis of the Confederation Council. This vessel has diplomatic immunity." The pirate captain laughed. "Diplomatic immunity requires someone to enforce it. Out here there is no one. Surrender your cargo and you may live." Leonis checked the sensors. 3 pirate ships, all armed, all blocking escape routes. His own vessel had minimal weapons, designed for diplomacy rather than combat. He could trigger the emergency beacon, but help would not arrive for hours. Ruby appeared in the bridge doorway. "Are those bad people?" "Return to your cabin," Leonis ordered. "Lock the door and stay there. What about you?" "I will handle this. Go now." Ruby nodded and left. Leonis turned back to the communication channel and began negotiating, trying to buy time. The pirates were not interested. They fired warning shots across his bow and prepared to board. Leonis sealed the bridge and armed himself with a ceremonial blade that had never been used in actual combat, the boarding clamps attached to the hull with a metallic screech. Leonis heard the outer airlock cycle open. He activated the internal monitors and watched as 6 pirates in armored suits entered his ship. They moved with professional efficiency, checking corners and covering each other. Then they reached the cargo bay. Leonis watched the leader wave his team forward. They entered cautiously, weapons raised. Biscuit dropped from the overhead pipes, like a furry missile dot. What happened next would haunt the surviving pirates for the rest of their lives. The honey badger moved through zero gravity like he had evolved for it, using walls and ceiling and floor interchangeably. Claws tore through armor seals. Teeth found joints and gaps. The pirates' weapons could not track fast enough, and firing in a ship's cargo bay risked hull breaches. In 30 seconds, 4 pirates were injured and retreating. The remaining 2 tried to seal the cargo bay door, but Biscuit squeezed through the gap before it closed. Leonis lost visual as the honey badger chased them back toward their boarding tube. The pirate ships detached and fled. Leonis stood on the bridge, his ceremonial blade still undrawn, trying to process what had happened. Ruby appeared again. "Is everyone okay?" she asked. "The pirates are gone," Leonis said numbly. "Good, where's Biscuit?" They found the honey badger in the hallway near the airlock, calmly grooming blood out of his fur. Ruby picked him up and hugged him. "You shouldn't run off like that," she said gently. "You scared Ambassador Leonis." Biscuit made a huffing sound that might have been apology or indifference. Ruby carried him back to her cabin. Leonis and Prism stood in the hallway together. "She told him to stay in the cabin," Prism observed. "She did," Leonis agreed. "He did not listen, no." They looked at each other. Leonis felt his worldview shifting in uncomfortable ways. Ruby controlled Biscuit through affection and trust, not commands or dominance. But that control had limits. The honey badger would protect her and those she cared about whether she ordered it or not. I need to inform the summit, Linus said quietly. They need to understand what we are bringing to the core worlds. Prism's surface flickered. I do not think they will believe you until they see it themselves. Lenny's new prism was right. Words could not capture what humanity represented. The galaxy would have to learn the hard way. The Grand Summit convened in a space station built specifically for meetings between species who barely tolerated each other. The architecture reflected this tension. Every delegation had separate entrances, separate quarters, and separate security protocols. No species trusted any other species enough to share corridors. Ruby held Lenny's paw as they walked through the diplomatic entrance. She had asked to hold his paw 3 days ago, and Lenny's had not known how to refuse without seeming cruel. Now he found the small hand in his surprisingly comforting. Even as Biscuit padded along beside them, radiating menace to every guard they passed, the summit chamber was arranged in a circle, with each delegation section elevated to ensure no species looked down on another. The Vin Empire occupied the eastern section, their warriors standing at attention in full ceremonial armor. The Talon clans held the southern position. Avian predators with razor-sharp beaks and talons that could tear through steel. The Shade Collective commanded the western section, species who hunted through darkness and fear. Others filled the remaining spaces, each one a civilization built on the principle that strength determined survival. Lenny's led Ruby to the central platform reserved for supplicants and witnesses. She looked around with open curiosity while Biscuit sat at her feet and yawned, showing teeth that made several delegates shift nervously. The summit leader, a Talon clan elder named Highwing, spoke first. We are here to determine the status of humanity within Confederation space. A human colony ship was destroyed by natural disaster. One survivor remains. We must decide what this means for future human expansion. Kill them all, the Vin ambassador said flatly. They are Deathworlders. Their very existence threatens stability. We do not know enough, a Shade Collective representative hissed. One child tells us nothing about their species. One child and her pet have already defeated Vin warriors and pirate crews, Highwing noted. Perhaps that tells us enough. The debate continued. Ruby listened quietly, occasionally petting Biscuit. Lenny's watched her face and saw no fear, no anger, just patient attention like she was waiting for the adults to finish talking so she could speak. Finally, Highwing addressed her directly. Child of Earth, you have heard the concerns. Why did humans bring predators with them to the stars? Why travel with something so dangerous? Ruby stood up. Her voice carried across the chamber despite its softness. Biscuit isn't dangerous. He's my friend. That creature has injured multiple trained warriors, the Vin ambassador objected. Because they tried to hurt us first, Ruby said. Biscuit only fights when someone's being mean. Otherwise, he just likes to eat and sleep and play. You call that playing? A Talon clan delegate asked, genuine confusion in their voice. Yes, Ruby said simply. She looked around at all the different species. Didn't you bring friends when you went to space? Weren't you lonely? The question landed like a physical blow. Lenny's watched the delegates shift and murmur. The concept of traveling with another species by choice, without hierarchy or subjugation, seemed alien to them. They had allies and servants and conquered peoples, but not friends. Humans are weak individually, the Shade Collective representative said. This is known. You bring predators because you need protection. No, Ruby said. We brought dogs and cats and horses and lots of animals because we love them. They're family. Family? Highwing repeated slowly. You consider other species to be family, don't you? Ruby asked. The silence that followed was profound. Lilies realized that none of these apex species had ever conceptualized relationships outside of power dynamics. They had no framework for understanding what Ruby was describing. The Shade Collective representative decided to demonstrate why humans should be feared. They activated a holographic projection, showing images of human warfare, violence, destruction. Images pulled from Earth's history and the colony ship's databases. You speak of family and friendship, but your species has a history of extraordinary violence. You kill your own kind. You destroy your own world. You are dangerous. Ruby watched the images without looking away. When they finished, she spoke quietly. Those things happened. Humans did bad things, but we also did good things. We helped each other. We saved animals from extinction. We went to space because we wanted to make things better. And did you? The representative pressed. Did you make things better, or did you bring your violence to the stars? Biscuit stood up. The honey badger looked at the Shade Collective representative with flat, unblinking eyes. Then he walked across the platform and sat down between Ruby and the representative section. His posture was relaxed, but every delegate in the chamber understood the message. Ruby walked over and picked up Biscuit. You're trying to scare me. That's mean. Biscuit doesn't like it when people are mean to me. Is that a threat? The representative demanded. No, Ruby said. It's just information. Biscuit is my friend. Friends protect each other. That's what family does. She carried Biscuit back to Lamise and looked up at him. Can we go now? I don't think they want to listen. Highwings spread their wings in a gesture of authority. The child has spoken. We will deliberate and make our decision. But first, a test has been proposed. The Vin Empire wishes to demonstrate the true danger of Earth creatures in controlled conditions. Lalonis felt his mane rise. What kind of test? The Imperial hunting grounds, the Vin ambassador said. If the creature survives one trial against our captured predators, we will acknowledge that Deathworld species have value. If it fails, humanity will be restricted to their own space and forbidden from joining the Confederation. That is a death sentence, Lalonis protested. The hunting grounds contain apex predators from Class 10 and higher death worlds. Earth is classified Class 12, the Vin ambassador replied. Let us see if that classification is accurate. Ruby tugged on Lalonis' sleeve. What's a hunting ground? Lalonis knelt down to her level. A place where warriors test themselves against dangerous animals. They want Biscuit to fight something. Ruby looked at Biscuit, then back at Lalonis. Will they hurt him? They will try, Lalonis said honestly. Ruby considered this. Then she looked at the Vin ambassador. Okay, but if Biscuit wins, you have to promise to leave humans alone. Agreed, the Vin ambassador said, confident in his empire's superiority. Lalonis closed his eyes. The child had no idea what she had just agreed to. But when he looked at Biscuit, the honey badger met his gaze with something that looked almost like amusement. Perhaps Ruby knew exactly what she was doing. The Imperial hunting grounds existed on a moon that had been terraformed specifically for bloodsport. Different biomes contained different predators, all captured from death worlds across the galaxy and kept in conditions that made them aggressive and territorial. Vin warriors came here to prove their strength. Most left with scars. Some did not leave at all. Ruby looked out at the arena from the observation platform while Lalonis tried one last time to change her mind. You do not have to do this. We can refuse. Find another way to prove humanity's worth. Biscuit can handle it, Ruby said confidently. She had packed a lunch for them both, sandwiches made from ship rations that she had carefully assembled. He's really good at fighting. He just doesn't like to do it unless he has to. Prisms stood nearby, their crystalline body reflecting the harsh sunlight. The first trial will be against a razorback from Kepler 72c, 4 meters long, armored scales, venomous spines. It has killed 17 Vin warriors. Oh, Ruby said. She did not sound worried. What does it eat? Anything it can catch, Prism replied. Ruby nodded and offered Biscuit a piece of her sandwich. The honey badger ate it carefully, then licked her fingers. She scratched behind his ears. The Vin Emperor watched from the Imperial box, surrounded by his warriors and advisors. Other delegates from the summit filled the observation platforms, curious to see if the Deathworld creature was truly as dangerous as reports suggested. Betting pools had already formed. Most wagered on the razorback. Highwing landed on the platform next to Lumi's. This is madness. You should stop this. The child agreed, Lino said quietly. And I do not think I could stop her even if I tried. Ruby walked down to the arena entrance with Biscuit padding beside her. Guards opened the massive gates. The arena floor was dirt and rock, meant to simulate natural terrain. At the far end, another gate began to open. The Razorback emerged slowly, its armored body scraping against the metal. It was massive, larger than the hollows had suggested. Venomous spines ran along its back, each one capable of paralyzing prey with a single scratch. Its eyes fixed on the small creature standing calmly in the center of the arena. Ruby knelt down and kissed the top of Biscuit's head. Be careful, okay? Come back when you're done. She walked back toward the entrance. Every observer felt their blood run cold. The child was leaving her companion alone against an apex predator. The Razorback charged. Biscuit waited until the last possible second, then dodged sideways with casual ease. The Razorback's momentum carried it past, spines whistling through empty air. It turned with surprising speed for something so large, but Biscuit was already underneath it. Claws finding the gaps between armor plates, the Razorback roared and tried to roll. Tried to crush the honey badger beneath its weight. Biscuit simply moved, always one step ahead, always finding another gap in the armor. Blood began to flow. The predator's movements became frantic, desperate. It tried to flee back to its gate. Biscuit let it go. He sat down in the middle of the arena and began grooming the blood from his claws. Completely unconcerned, the crowd was silent. The Vin Emperor stood up slowly. Bring the Night Stalker pack. Your Majesty, one of his advisors protested. The agreement was one trial. I did not specify one creature, the Emperor said coldly. The Night Stalkers hunt in groups. Let us see how the Deathworlder handles multiple opponents. 3 gates opened simultaneously. 6-legged predators emerged, each one sleek and black with eyes that saw in darkness. They moved with coordinated precision, flanking Biscuit from 3 directions. These were pack hunters from a world where cooperation meant survival. Biscuit stood up and yawned. The Night Stalkers attacked together. A synchronized assault designed to overwhelm prey through superior numbers and tactics. Biscuit met them with something the observers had never seen before. Not aggression or fear, but almost playful violence. He treated the pack hunters like toys, batting them aside, dodging their coordinated strikes, occasionally stopping to bite one before moving to the next, within minutes. The Night Stalkers retreated with their pack leader limping. Biscuit sat down again and resumed grooming. The Vin Emperor's face had gone pale beneath his scales. Bring everything. All of them now. Your Majesty, that will destroy the arena, an advisor warned. Do it. Every gate opened. Creatures poured into the arena from a dozen different death worlds. Flying predators and burrowing ambushers. Armored tanks and agile assassins. Venomous, clawed, fanged, and desperate. They had one thing in common. They were all apex. Predators on their homeworlds. They all stopped when they saw Biscuit. The honey badger stood in the center of the arena, surrounded by creatures that should have torn him apart. He looked at each one calmly, assessing, waiting. Then he took one step forward. The predators fled. Some returned to their gates. Others tried to climb the arena walls. The flying ones took to the air and refused to come down. Within seconds, Biscuit stood alone again in the center of the arena. Ruby opened the entrance gate and walked in. Biscuit! Lunchtime! The honey badger trotted over to her, and she picked him up like nothing had happened. She carried him back through the gate while every observer tried to process what they had witnessed. Lalonis met her at the entrance. His voice shook when he spoke. Ruby, do you understand what just happened? Biscuit won, Ruby said. She set him down and unpacked their lunch. Can we eat now? I'm hungry. Prism approached slowly. The predators fled from him. Not because he defeated them. They fled because they recognized something we did not. What? Lenny's asked. That Biscuit was not hunting. He was playing. And they understood the difference. Ruby offered Biscuit another sandwich. He's a good boy. I told you he could handle it. Above them, the Vin Emperor stood motionless in his box. Around the arena, delegates from every apex species felt their understanding of power and danger fundamentally shift. Humanity had not sent a warrior or a weapon to face the galaxy's fiercest predators. They had sent a pet who was bored by the challenge. The galaxy's apex killers had just learned they were not apex anymore. News traveled fast across Confederation space. Within days, every civilized system knew about the human child and her honey badger who had humiliated the apex species without trying. Ships altered courses to avoid human space. Trade negotiations were put on hold. Military strategists revised their threat assessments. The galaxy had encountered something it did not know how to categorize. Ruby did not understand any of it. She walked through the summit station corridors and noticed people stepping aside, guards flinching when Biscuit yawned, delegates crossing to the other side of the hallway. It confused her. She asked Lonis about it during breakfast. "Why is everyone acting weird?" she said, sharing her fruit ration with Biscuit. "Did we do something wrong?" Lonis stirred his morning drink slowly. He had been awake most of the night attending emergency council meetings where species representatives demanded explanations, protections, and assurances. "You frightened them." "But we didn't do anything scary," Ruby protested. "Biscuit just did what they asked." "He won the fight." "That is precisely what frightens them," Lonis said. He looked at the small human child who had accidentally destabilized galactic politics. The apex species built their power on being the most dangerous beings in any situation. You prove they are not. They do not know how to exist in a galaxy where they are not at the top. Ruby petted Biscuit thoughtfully. "But that's silly. Being dangerous doesn't make you important. Being kind does." Prism entered the dining area, their crystalline body catching the morning light. "The council has reached a decision. They wish to speak with Ruby." The council chamber felt different this time. The delegates sat quietly, watching Ruby and Biscuit with careful attention. Hiving spoke first, their wings folded in a gesture of respect rather than authority. "Ruby of Earth, the Confederation Council has voted. Humanity will be granted provisional membership. You will be given territory, resources, and the right to expand as you see fit. We will not interfere with human development or limit your movement through space." Ruby smiled. "Thank you. That's nice. However," Highwing continued, "we must understand your species better. The Council offers you anything within our power. Wealth, ships, planetary systems, technology. What do you want?" Ruby looked surprised by the question. She thought for a moment, scratching Biscuit behind the ears. "I want to find other lost colony ships. There might be more kids like me out there. They might be alone and scared." The council chamber fell silent. Lonis felt his throat tighten. The apex species had offered this child the power to reshape civilizations, and she had asked to help other children. "You could have asked for an empire," the Shade Collective representative said quietly. "Why do you want to search for lost ships?" "Because being alone is scary," Ruby said simply. "I had Biscuit, so I was okay. But other kids might not have anyone. I want to make sure they're not alone." The Vrin ambassador spoke for the first time since the hunting grounds. His voice was subdued, almost gentle. "This is what humanity values? Protecting the lost?" "Everyone should be protected," Ruby said. "That's what friends do. That's what family does." Hiving spread their wings fully, a gesture of formal acknowledgement. "Then the Confederation will provide you with a ship and resources to conduct your search. Ambassador Lonis has volunteered to accompany you as guardian and guide." Ruby looked up at Lonis with hopeful eyes. "You want to come with us?" Lonis knelt down to her level. Over the past weeks, this small human had taught him more about strength and compassion than centuries of diplomacy. "If you will have me." "Yes," Ruby said, hugging him. Biscuit pressed against them both in what might have been approval. Prism stepped forward. "I also volunteer." "Ships require engineers." "The more the better," Ruby said happily. Over the following weeks, preparations were made. A ship was commissioned, equipped with the best sensors and faster-than-light drives the Confederation could provide. Ruby named it Tomorrow's Hope after the colony ship that had brought her to the stars. The Council provided maps of known colony ship routes and trajectories for vessels that had gone silent on departure day. Ruby stood at the airlock leading to her new ship. Sizith, the salvage captain who had found her, came to say goodbye. "You have changed the galaxy, little human." "I just wanted to find my parents," Ruby said quietly. "And then I wanted to help other kids." "That is why you changed the galaxy," Sizith said. "You reminded us that power is not the same as purpose." Ruby boarded Tomorrow's Hope with Biscuit at her side. Lennis took the captain's chair while Prism settled into engineering. The ship departed from Summit Station with an escort of vessels from every major species. A gesture of respect that had never been granted before. As they traveled toward the first coordinates of a lost colony ship, Lennis noticed something remarkable happening across Confederation space. Species that had barely tolerated each other were suddenly cooperating to help locate missing human vessels. The Vin Empire donated military sensors. The Shade Collective shared navigation data. The Talon clans provided protection in dangerous regions. Ruby had not conquered the apex species. She had not threatened them or defeated them in battle. She had simply shown them what they had forgotten over millennia of competition and conflict, that strength without compassion was empty, that being dangerous was not the same as being important, and that the greatest power was the choice to protect rather than dominate. 3 months later, Tomorrow's Hope found its first target, a damaged colony ship drifting in deep space. Lennis prepared the rescue team while Ruby waited anxiously. They brought back 17 survivors, including 5 children who had been in cryo-sleep. Ruby met them at the airlock, Biscuit beside her. The children were frightened and confused, but Ruby smiled at them and said the words she had needed to hear when she woke up alone. "You're safe now. You're not alone anymore. We're family." The children looked at the strange aliens around them, at the honey badger with too many teeth, at the galaxy they did not recognize. But they looked at Ruby and believed her. Across Confederation space, the former apex species watched and learned. The human child was teaching them something they had never understood, that the strongest bonds were not forged through dominance but through devotion, that true power came not from being feared, but from choosing to care when you did not have to. The galaxy's apex killers had become students of a 6-year-old human and her honey badger. And slowly, carefully, they began to understand what it meant to be more than dangerous. They began to understand what it meant to be kind.